Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our program, Spiritual Fireside Chats. I hope you had a wonderful day. Inshallah, tonight we have another beautiful program for you. I have a special guest, as I always say, with a special topic. Before I introduce our guest and his topic, I would like to, inshallah, recite from Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, and the verses 267 and 271, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم ومما أخرجنا لكم من الأرض ولا تيمموا الخبيث منه تنفقون ولستم بآخذيه إلا أن تغمضوا فيه واعلموا أن الله غني حميد. الشيطان يعدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء والله يعدكم مغفرة منه وفضلا والله واسع عليم. يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء ومن يؤت الحكمة فقد أوتي خيرا كثيرا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب. وما أنفقتم من نفقة أو نذرتم من نذر فإن الله يعلمه وما للظالمين من أنصار. إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي وإن تخفوها وتؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم ويكفر عنكم من سيئاتكم والله بما تعملون خبير. صدق الله العظيم. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. O you who have believed, spend from the good things which you have earned and from that which we have produced for you from the earth. And do not aim toward the defective therefrom, spending from that while you would not take it yourself except with closed eyes. And know that Allah is free of need and praiseworthy. Satan threatens you with poverty and orders you to immorality, while Allah promises you forgiveness from him and bounty. And Allah is all encompassing and knowing. He gives wisdom to whom he wills, and whoever has given wisdom has certainly been given much good, and none will remember except those of understanding. And whatever you spend of expenditures or make of vows, indeed, Allah knows of it. And for the wrongdoers, there are no helpers. If you disclose your charitable expenditures, they are good. But if you conceal them and give them to the poor, it is better for you. And he will remove from you some of your misdeeds thereby. And Allah, with that you do, is fully acquainted. God Almighty has spoken the truth. Peace be upon all of you, dear brothers and sisters. Again, one more time, welcome to our program. Tonight's topic is, inshallah, as you can tell from the verses that I recited, and then it was on the first opening page. It's charity and Islam's theory of change. As we know, we have two types of charity. One of them is called zakat, almsgiving, and the other one is sadaqah, donation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned with salah so many times the zakat or just regular charity. And through that, he promised that he will purify our wealth and then also increase it. So for this beautiful and important topic, we have the president of Mr. Salam Al-Marayati with us, inshallah. He is also one of our khatibs, and I would like to invite him to the screen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Salam.
Wa alaikum salam. Awesome. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. How are you?
Very good. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. You're on.
Thank you so much. So I will also share the screen if it's okay.
Sure. Let me take this one.
And, of course, I think with the Quran, you can go to so many verses that address this topic, because the issue of sadaqah and zakat and spending in general is a constant thread throughout the Quran. So it is the foundation of our faith to establish the prayer and to make our zakat a regular part of our worship. And so, as you said, every time the Quran talks about salat, it also talks about zakat. And so when we look at this issue, we can start, as well as the verses that you mentioned about giving. This idea of charity is not something that we look upon as uh, we are the privileged, and we have to take care of the underprivileged in a way that is demeaning, in a way that as if it is something that we have to force ourselves to do. It's something that is natural um, in Islam, and so the Quran drills that point with us, as it says in Surah Al-Baqarah number 3, who believe. He's talking about the believers. They are those who believe in the existence that which is beyond the reach of human perception and are constant in prayer and spend on others out of which we provide for them as sustenance. And the idea of risk is something that it is something that is given to us. It is something that really, honestly, is not due to due to our own volition. It is something that God has given us the privilege to have from His bounty, and so we don't look at the money that we have as if we're the ones that really own it. It is something that God is lending to us in this life. And the issue is not about how much we have gotten, because some have gotten more than others. It's really about how we spend, and how we spend it from what has been provided to us by God. So it is a loan by God, this money that we have, this material wealth that we have in this world, and how we give it, how we spend it is really what we are measured by. So this is the first point that I think Islam is making to the believer, and it is a characteristic of the believer that the budget of the believer, he or she does not just provide crumbs of the pie to spending on others. It is a big part of the pie. It's not like I put a big chunk for my own house, and then the car, and then the clothes, and then entertainment, and then restaurants, and then traveling around the world, and then gifts, for birthday parties, and so on and so forth. And then when it comes to the spending on others, okay, I'll give $100 here or $200 there from my spending. So proportionately, if you're a millionaire and you're giving in the $100 or $500 range, this is obviously a miserable failure. And I have gone to fundraisers where a boy has decided to give from his allowance for the cause of God, and I felt more of a redeeming value there than in any experience in terms of fundraising for our causes. Um, and here the second verse I want to share is Surah Al-Baqarah 261. This idea of the corn, the grain of corn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sharing with us in terms of a parable. And so those who spend in their from their possessions for the sake of God is that of a grain out of which grows 7 ears, and in every year 100 grains, for God grants manifold increase unto whom He wills, and God is infinite, all-knowing. And in this verse, we can look at it in two ways, and both of them are correct. We can look at it as, when I give something, God will pay me back even more. And so I give something, and then from that, I get 7 times, and from the 7, 100 times, and so on. So God will infinitely reward me for whatever I give. The other way of looking at it, which is to me is equally important, is that what I'm doing is investing in the cause of God, and that will help serve the values that God wants us to represent on this earth. And so that will grow. the values of justice, the values of mercy, the values of compassion. So by my giving to the cause that serve those values, then the institutions that uphold those values will become stronger, will become bigger, will become more impactful. We will make social change, and the world will become a better place. And how much? God says infinitely. From one act of giving will grow 7, from the 7, 100, and God will continue to infinity. So that I think is the return on investment, if you will, theory in Islam. And then the sadaqat, these are the categories of giving through our zakat. Some people think that the only category for zakat is feeding the poor. That's one of the categories. It is not the only category. And again, if I just go and say, well, I fed the homeless, so I gave my zakat for that, that's fine. But the Quran is telling you, you should actually think bigger than that. And here's the reason why after I go through the categories. So the first, for the poor and the needy, the masakin, and then those who are in charge thereof, those who are running the institutions for taking care of those in need. You have to hire people to do the work, and therefore the zakat can be used for that as well. Those whose hearts need to be won over. This is a very interesting category because more than likely these are people who are not Muslim. So here's a category of zakat where you are doing a campaign to win their hearts. How to do it obviously is being left open for us, but you are softening the hearts of people so that they will see the light of Islam. So they will see the truth of Islam. So they will see the value of Islam in society, and then Islam becomes more a part of society, and then we can work more effectively in dealing with the inequities of society. And then the other category, the freeing of human beings from bondage, anything that relates to liberation. Liberation against slavery, obviously, was the issue of the time. Liberation against oppression, against occupation, against brutality by the authorities, against any kind of injustice, and in terms of liberation, that's another category. For those burdened with debts, we have the situation in our society where if you live in a poor area, there are sharks credits where people may pay 30, 40, 50% on the loans that they're given. And so to help alleviate that debt from society is another category for zakat. And then finally, God leaves it open and everything in God's cause. And for the wafer, so wafer meaning those who travel, and in another part of the Quran, it talks about those who are stuck on the road, ibn sabil, maybe homeless or refugees. So you see this wide range of what our zakat is given for. What that does then, it removes the inequities in society so that the system takes care of the poor and the needy. We are still going back to helping the poor and the needy, but we have to deal with the symptoms. In other words, we feed the homeless, we feed those in need, and we have to address the system that created that inequity that results in poor and the needy. And and here are all the other categories for it. So the zakat is giving us this all-encompassing view of what we should be giving to in order to deal with the inequities that will mitigate the situation of people being forced into poverty and all the inequities of society. The Quran also tells the believer as a commandment, do not deprive your charitable deeds of all worth by stressing. Oh, I'm sorry. Another verse I wanted to go to before I want to come to that. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, this is correct. So the Quran also um, is telling us not to deprive your charitable deeds of all worth by stressing your own benevolence and hurting the feelings of the needy, as does he who spends his wealth only to be seen and praised by men, and believes not in God in the last day. Um, so, so this issue again is shaping the character of the believer. I'm not, when I'm giving something to somebody in need or to a cause, to the mosque, let's say, I'm not giving it to the mosque and say, oh, the poor mosque. Or, those people who work for the mosque, they need a salary, so let's give them a few bucks here or there. I'm giving because God, number one, God has given me the opportunity to give. And as the word zakat is defined, the zakat is what's called, what's defined by Muhammad Asad as the self-purifying dues. I'm purifying myself by giving from what God has given me. So I'm not looking down at those that I'm giving to. So the mosque is not poor. The mosque is very rich if we only could see the richness that it is giving to so many people. What is the name of the mosque in Medina of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I'm sorry, the city of Medina, what is named? It's called Medina al-Munawwara, the enlightened city, because the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam gave light to the world from his work in that very humble mosque that he was working from. It spread light to the rest of the world. So that is how we should look to our investment into institutions and into those that may be in need. It is a way of spreading that light to the rest of society. Now, this verse is talking about the case of Abu Bakr, radiallahu anh, whose daughter Aisha radiallahu anha was slandered. This is the case where she was slandered for having an adulterous affair when actually God brought down the verse that that basically proved her innocence, and the whole surah really is about slander in Surah An-Nur, and how dare people even think about believing in slander and then spreading it, and how this is really a sin in Islam. But the person that erred in that was a person that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was giving part of his charity to. And so after this incident, Abu Bakr decided to suspend the giving. And then God says, let not those of you who have been graced with God's favor and the ease of life ever become remiss in helping the erring ones among their near of kin and the needy and those who have forsaken the domain of evil for the sake of God. But let them pardon and forbear, for do you not desire that God should forgive you your sins, seeing that God is much forgiving, a dispenser of grace. So Muhammad Asad goes into this into this story. The person that was referred to, and let's just go to the message here of Muhammad Asad. It is generally assumed that this verse refers to Abu Bakr, who swore that he would never again help his poor relative, the Muhajir Mistah, who used to support until then, after the latter had taken part in slandering Abu Bakr's daughter, Aisha. There's no doubt that this assumption of the commentators is well-founded, but there's also no doubt that the ethical purport of the above verse is timeless and therefore independent of the fact or facts with which it appears to be historically linked. This call to pardon, forbear is fully consonant with the Quranic Quranic principle of countering evil with good. So, so, uh, so, so here's a great person, obviously, in the history of Islam, being admonished in the Quran not to suspend his giving and to actually forgive the person and to resume the giving to that person. And I think we have to ask ourselves, if we were in that situation, we would do probably we would stop giving. If we're insulted by somebody, if we're slandered by somebody, yeah, we would stop giving. But the Quran is saying you should continue giving and you should forgive and forgive. That is the Quranic theory of change for ourselves. The change within ourselves to to value the privilege of giving, because what does the Quran say? You know, those of you who have been graced with God's favor and ease of life, we should never become remiss in helping. That is a very profound verse in that sense. The last verse, which is really, it could be a whole lecture, is really the mission statement for the Muslim. It's about al-bir, and bir is about this idea of true piety and having that real tenderness within your heart. This is how faith has changed you so much within your heart. This is the goodness that you find from that faith, that you are emitting goodness to the world. And so what does it say about al-bir? It says bir does not consist in turning your face towards the east or west. So this is talking about the prayer and the changing of the Qibla from Jerusalem to Mecca. And there was criticism of the Muslims. And so the Quran took the opportunity to say, it's not about the direction. It's not about the details. It's about the big picture. And what is that big picture? And the big picture, the Quran paints it for us. It's about the articles of faith. So belief in God, the last day, the angels, the revelation, the prophets. And after the articles of faith, goes on to say, spends from his substance, however much he himself may cherish that money, upon what? This is the categories of the zakat again: the near of kin, the orphans, the needy, the wafer, the beggars, and the freeing of human beings from bondage. The categories we talked about before. Then it says, after that, constant in prayer and giving the zakat. These are the self-purification in both the prayer and the giving from our wealth. And they are the one who keep promises when they promise and are patient in misfortune and hardship. And in time of peril, it is they that have proved themselves true, that it is they who are conscious of God. This is Islam's theory of change. By giving, number one, I'm changing myself by looking at the privilege of giving, not just feeling privileged that I have money, but the privilege of giving and the opportunity of giving. And then number two, creating an environment in our community and our society for change so that we remove the inequities and we reduce the propensity for poverty and for suffering and injustice. And then lastly, that we make the world a better place by doing it through the investments that we make. And the Quran talks about this investment through the parable of like a grain from corn, and from that it multiplies 100 times, and so on and so forth. That is the theory of change I believe that the Quran is telling us. And inshallah, this Ramadan, we will learn more from that as we immerse ourselves in these Quranic verses. And then we have the opportunity to practice it in Ramadan. And when we give in Ramadan, it is much greater than giving any other time of the year. And inshallah, we'll all benefit from that. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Brother Salam, for this beautiful message. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and bless your family members. Dear brothers and sisters, we are going to see Brother Salam 2 more times this coming week, inshallah. Actually, one is this weekend, Sunday. He will be talking about new administration and Muslim community at 12 p.m. Sunday. Please join us. And then the next one is going to be the next Friday, khutbah. As I mentioned, he's one of our khatibs, so we will hear from him.
I'll be working overtime this week, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see you, inshallah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Dear brothers, I'm going to call the adhan and we'll pray Salat al-Isha, inshallah. Afterwards, if you have any question for me, please put. Thank you.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقام محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت سبع سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء والله واسع عليم. الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله ثم لا يتبعون ما أنفقوا منا ولا أذى لهم أجرهم عند ربهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون قول معروف ومغفرة خير من صدقة يتبعها أذى والله غني حليم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى كالذي ينفق ماله رئاء الناس ولا يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فمثله كمثل صفوان عليه تراب فأصابه وابل فتركه صلدا لا يقدرون على شيء مما كسبوا والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله العظيم الذي لا إله إلا هو. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. سبحان الله 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 سبحان الله. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لك الحمد كله. اللهم ابسط علينا من بركاتك ورحمتك وفضلك ورزقك. O Allah, yours is the praise. O Allah, bestow on us from your blessings, mercy, grace, and provision. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين. O Allah, make faith dear to us and beautified in our hearts, and make disbelief, sin, and disobedience disliked to us, and make us among the rightly guided. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. O Allah, we ask you for guidance, taqwa, virtue, and sufficiency. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. O Allah, show us the truth as true and inspire us to follow it, and show us falsehood as falsehood and inspire us to abstain from it. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا. O Allah, please give quick healings for those who are sick. O Allah, please bless the souls of those who passed away before us. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم وأكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم واغسلهم بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقهم من الخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم ادخلهم الجنة اللهم ادخلهم الجنة وأعذهم من عذاب النار. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. O Allah, the Lord of the whole universe, the most merciful, the most compassionate, please forgive their shortcomings and mistakes and accept them in the highest level of paradise. وصلى اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
والحمد لله رب العالمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين إن الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our prayers, our supplications, our du'as, dear brothers and sisters. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you all, bless you all. And tomorrow is Friday. Have a great Friday, inshallah. And I just would like to remind you that the program starts at 12:50 with the Quranic recitation. And the khutbah starts at 1 p.m. And our khatib is Dr. Yasser Hathout. And join us via Facebook of Islamic Center of Southern California. Until then, peace be upon all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.